Dragon Age Inquisition was rated M for mature by the ESRB and contains blood, intense violence, nudity, sexual content, and strong language. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello everyone, my name is Amaronith and I play games for the internet, and today we're playing Dragon Age Inquisition. Last time we... got our specialization. And, it is now time for another Codex reading, starting with characters. Cole. Updated. His name is Cole. He's not that old, perhaps 20 years, no more. He has blonde hair that hangs in front of his eyes. He wears dirty leathers, perhaps the only clothes he owns. He was there when you found Reese in the Templar crypt, but you couldn't see him. Nobody can, and those who do forget him, just like you are right now. Remember the dream. A letter allegedly written by former Knight Captain Evangeline de Brassard, found in the spire in the aftermath of the Mage Uprising. Inquisitor, if you believe that this Cole truly wishes to help the Inquisition and can be trusted to do so safely, I am willing to give him a chance to prove himself, as Solus insists that he is a spirit made manifest in the form of a young man, not a demon possessing an unwilling victim. I concede that he may not be malicious. Nevertheless, Cole's abilities concern me. I would ask Leliana to have him watched, but most of Skyhold seems unable to see this spirit, or remember him even if informed of his existence. The servants complain of odd occurrences, items mislaid or moved to strange locations, but have thus far been unable to see or remember the person responsible. Such actions appear harmless thus far, but I remain vigilant. Cassandra. Cole appreciates the Inquisition helping those who are hurting and in need. Corypheus. Let me tell you what I know about the Seven, those Tevinter Magisters said to have entered the Golden City long ago. Each was a high priest to one of the old gods. Each came to the ritual shrouded in secrecy, hiding their true name even from each other. They were competitors, you see. The old gods told them they would break into the Golden City and usurp the Maker's throne. But only one of them could sit on that throne. Each assumed a title related to their role in casting the ritual. Some texts claim that they had a leader, the High Priest of Dumont, called Corypheus. He did not rule this group, but instead conducted it, coordinating their efforts to achieve a magical feat never since replicated. They breached the Fade, walked physically in dreams, and changed our world forever. Perhaps these 7 were the first Darkspawn, cursed by the Maker as the Chant of Light tells us. Perhaps not. One would think these Magisters long dead, but there are whispers this is not so. Think, if you will, what might become of the minds of such beings, corrupted by the blight, cast down from prideful folly, simmering in resentment and darkness for over 1,000 years. Where would such men live? Who knows of them? For someone must, if whispers persist. What secrets do they yet hold? And what would we do, should any of them return to the light? With luck, these are questions we will never have to answer. From Questioning the Chant by Magister Vibius Agorian. Samson. I want this made clear to every man and woman in our army. Do not challenge the Red Templars' leader, General Samson, on your own. You may have heard stories of how Samson used to be a Templar in Kirkwall until he was thrown out of the order, that he became a vagrant begging for coin to buy lyrium. That man no longer exists. The fiend who attacked us at Haven had the strength of 12 men. Samson has the training of a Templar, and all the power of red lyrium at his command. For those who did not see it firsthand, he is as dangerous as any demon, perhaps worse. Treat him as such. I will hold personally accountable any officers who do not communicate this order to their soldiers. Letter from Commander Cullen, issued to commanding officers, and read to all Inquisition soldiers. The Champion of Kirkwall. I've heard the name Hawk on several lips this week. Many of us blame the Champion for the events in Kirkwall, which sparked a war and hurled all of Thedas into chaos. But can we truly fault Hawk for what he did? Here was a poor refugee from Ferelden, who came to the free marches fleeing the Blight. Coming from a family of apostates, Hawk must have spent his life hiding from Templars, hearing about the abuses to which mages under the care of the Circle were subjected. Make no mistake, there were abuses. We will never find a peaceful solution to this conflict until we admit that we were partially responsible. Imagine how it must have been for Hawk when he rose to prominence for his role, ending the Qunari threat of 934, from refugee to Champion of Kirkwall. Hawk's position gave him power and influence. Nothing could touch him. Hawk always had sympathy for mages, and perhaps wished to do more for them. Are the Champion's actions during the Mage Uprising so hard to understand, given all I have said? Following the destruction of the Chantry, Knight Commander Meredith invoked the right of annulment and called for the execution of every mage in Kirkwall. It was not right. Another injustice added to an already lengthy list. Hawk knew it and stood against her. He put himself between the Templars and the mages they sought to destroy, and became a legend. Even though he later disappeared, fleeing Kirkwall and the Chantry's justice, what happened in Kirkwall that day changed Thedas forever. By defying Meredith and our order, Hawk became a beacon for the Mage Rebellion. That gave the mages hope, rallied them. They fought back, and here we now stand, on the eve of the Divine Conclave, seeking peace before their rebellion destroys us all. Knight Commander Martiu, of Molsamad, speaking to Templars attending the Divine Conclave. Creatures. Darkspawn. Those who had sought to claim heaven by violence destroyed it. What was golden and pure turned black. Those who had once been mage lords, the brightest of their age, were no longer men, but monsters. Threnodies 12:1. Sin was the midwife that ushered the Darkspawn into this world. The Magisters fell from the Golden City, and their fate encompassed all our worlds, for they were not alone. No one knows where the Darkspawn came from. A dark mockery of men. In the darkest places they thrive, growing in numbers as a plague of locusts will. In raids they will often take captives, dragging their victims alive into the deep roads, but most evidence suggests that these are eaten. Like spiders, it seems Darkspawn prefer their food still breathing. Perhaps they are simply spawned by the darkness. Certainly we know that evil has no trouble perpetuating itself. The last blight was in the Age of Towers, striking once again at the heart of Tevinter, spreading south into Orlais and east into the Free Marches. The plagues spread as far as Ferelden, but the withering and twisting of the land stopped well beyond our borders. Here Darkspawn have never been more than the stuff of legends. In the northern lands, however, particularly Tevinter and the Enderfells, they say Darkspawn haunt the hinterlands, preying on outlying farmers and isolated villages, a constant threat. From Ferelden Folklore and History by Sister Patrine, Chantry Scholar. Ghoul. Among the saddest legacies of the Fifth Blight are those poor souls who survived the Darkspawn attacks across Ferelden, only to succumb to the corruption of the Blight itself. We have seen animals, birds, wolves, and even bears, corrupted into mindless ruinations of their former selves, but humans are by no means immune. Those unfortunate victims not killed quickly by contact with Darkspawn blood or disease become mad with fever. Their bodies lose their hair and become misshapen with sores. In their last lucid thoughts, many speak of hearing whispered words, or a song that no one else can catch. It is vital that once victims begin hearing such things, they are put out of their misery quickly and mercifully. There are stories across Ferelden of these ghouls, maddened by the corruption of the blight, attacking their friends and spreading the corruption further. While it is likely that the sickness will eventually kill a ghoul, the dying strength of these poor creatures makes them nearly as great a danger as the Darkspawn themselves. They are no longer our friends, our family, or our countrymen. They are victims of the blight, and must be given the same mercy Hessarian showed Andraste, a swift sword. An excerpt from Marks of the Blight by Sister Dorcas Guerin. Hurlock. Those who had sought to claim heaven by violence destroyed it. What was golden and pure turned black. Those who had once been mage lords, the brightest of their age, were no longer men but monsters. Sin was the midwife that ushered the Darkspawn into this world. The Magisters fell from the Golden City, and their fate encompassed all our worlds, for they were not alone. No one knows where the Darkspawn come from, a dark mockery of men. In the darkest places they thrive, growing in numbers as a plague of locusts will. In raids they will often take captives, dragging their victims alive into the deep roads. Most evidence suggests these are eaten. Like spiders, it seems Darkspawn prefer their food still breathing. Perhaps they are spawned by the darkness. Certainly evil has no trouble perpetuating itself. The last blight was in the Age of Towers, striking once again at the heart of Tevinter, spreading south into Orlais and east into the Free Marches. The plague spread as far as Ferelden, but the withering and twisting of the land stopped well beyond our borders. Here, Darkspawn have never been more than the stuff of legends. In the northern lands, however, particularly Tevinter and the Anderfells, Darkspawn haunt the hinterlands, preying on outlying farmers and isolated villages, a constant threat. From Ferelden Folklore and History by Sister Petrine, Chantry Scholar. Red Templar Foot Soldier. Updated. Do you remember when I was tracking some mages hiding in the mountains? I found those Red Templar heretics attacking them. The Templars turned on me as well. The soldiers looked like normal men and women, but they rained down blows so hard it numbed my arm through my shield. It took me 3 minutes to kill just one, and he only stopped when I cut off his head. That's when I saw their leader, a huge, misshapen knight. He made a gesture, and a streak of light streamed from him into one of his soldiers. Red lyrium burst through the soldier's back. He changed into some kind of thing that made all the mages sick. I still don't know how he survived. These mages are children and frightened scholars, hiding from the war after their circles fell. Still, if one of them wasn't a healer, I'd have lost my sword arm. Letter from a Templar knight who left the order to her husband. Researched, damage against Red Templars increased. Groups. The Orlesian Civil War. When Grand Duke Gaspard attacked Empress Celine of Orlais in an attempt to claim the throne, we assumed business across the country would suffer greatly. To counter propaganda suggesting she was overly tolerant of the elves, Celine was drawn to crush an elven uprising in Halam Sharal, and Gaspard's attack there destroyed her forces and cut her off from Val Royeaux. She escaped back to the Orlesian capital with 100 mad stories explaining how, at which point we started closing down on the family shops, expecting Gaspard's army to carve a bloody path through the heartlands and up north toward the city. Blah. At which point we started closing down the family shops, expecting Gaspard's army to carve a bloody path through the heartlands and up north toward cities loyal to Celine. Instead, the humans have been downright reasonable. We made a killing on furs and silver in Val Royeaux as Gaspard's hold on southern Orlais cut off incoming trade goods from Ferelden. The nobles in Montfort and Valchevon also bought up violets as though their touch killed Darkspawn. Apparently, Celine declared that wearing purple flowers was a way for humans to show their loyalty to her. In Ferelden, half the cities would be on fire. But in Orlais, the nobles make jokes, and the merchants just keep peddling their wares while Gaspard and Celine's armies clash in the dales. The only people really suffering are the peasants, but then that's true enough anywhere. Send extra guards on the next shipment, but save the lyrium for Ferelden. The family's doing good business here as it is. A letter from Durnall Harrick, dwarven merchant, to his family in Ostwick. History. Way of the Artificer. From Of Mechanical Obscura, the words of Three Eyes make one passage stand out. What can this be? To ask that question is prove oneself a craftsman, one who looks upon the raw and wonders what it can become. The Artificer is not of that ken, for she will look upon the same resource and wonder not how it can be elevated, but how it can be made to serve. There are no more words necessary. Multiple schematics follow. Oh, whoops. Way of the Assassin. From Of Granting Death, Blades and Other Means, Ayre's words make one passage stand out. You misunderstand the point of secrecy. Of course they knew that I was there. One of their number was dead. It is never the aim that they are ignorant to my purpose or presence. Death is, after all, a message, and messages are meant to be received. It is paramount that the arrival remain secret, not the result. They know what may come, but never when, until the answer is now, and there is naught they can do but receive. A treatise on cutting edges and other debilitating elements follows. Way of the Tempest. From Of Storms, Notes on the Tempest in Practice. Keem's words make one passage stand out. They expect folly in the Tempest and are fooled, for there is no madness in knowing the absolute limit of an ability and charging to that edge. Wars may be a tactical affair, but the one-on-one meeting of combatants is decided by the one who first realizes that they are in mortal peril and commits fully. Many reach that point. The Tempest starts there. By the time their foes have risen to match, it is too late. And another. They asked what type of shot they should encase the mixture in, expecting some trebuchet pot or a vessel fit to pour over a palisade. I bade them make it by the barrel and store it in my quarters with 1,000 glass vials. They were afraid, and I smiled. Another still. Forward, ever so! Where you were is dangerous. Where you go is dangerous. Different reasons, both to your advantage. Leap, then leap again, looking as for witnesses, not the disaster. Also one more. I did not say I was unappreciative, nor unimpressed. That you were a sight to behold is not in question. All I noted is that the Tempest is offensive, not just in ability, but in what condition you leave the field. I should like 100 of you to deploy in the cities of my enemy, and not a one to stand as defense in my own home. A series of unstable brews follows. Letters and Notes. A note on Orzammar. Inquisitor, as you've already heard, Orzammar has urgent need of our services. The underground earthquakes in the deep roads threaten to cave in countless lyrium mines. If this happens, it would all but cut off the supply of lyrium to the surface. I don't need to tell you how many former Templars in the Inquisition rely on that lyrium. It is imperative that we remain in Orzammar's good graces. Their politics may not require as much finesse as the grand game of Orlais, but dwarven society can be just as perilous. Orzammar is one of 2 remaining taigs that once made up their empire, and its citizens are a proud people who are accustomed to hardship and lean heavily on tradition. A dwarf's caste means everything. While you are not traveling to the capital itself, you will be dealing with a representative from its shaperate. I am told her name is Valta, and her father is a highly respected member of the Smith caste. Liliana has discovered little else about her, which isn't surprising considering how tightly Orzammar holds its secrets. I caution you to treat this representative with the utmost respect. We are dealing with a proud people with long memories. Once a grudge is held, well, I'm sure you've heard what they say about rocks and dwarven stubbornness. Josephine. The Rotunda and the Fresco. Sister Leliana, as per your request, I have made a thorough examination of the fresco adorning the Rotunda. I first attempted to clarify its intent with Messer Solus. Forgive me, I know he is not titled within the structure of the Inquisition, but the more I learn of his experience, the more awkward I feel not using a formal honorific. On the mural, all Messer would say is, Skyhold is his fortress, meaning, of course, the Inquisitor. These are his actions. He is, of course, correct. The subject of each edition is self-evident. On the medium and method, it is elven fresco, pigment and plaster, and it is grand. I have rarely been privileged to observe such skill as it is applied. It is considered with long periods of study before the image emerges, whole cloth and with certainty. It speaks of how I imagine elves view the world, and the measured nature of their step. I should expect such competence from Messer, given his probable years of study, but it is still an amazing work, demonstrating an art with few living practitioners, even among the Dalish. Archivist Bannon. Places. On Skyhold. A page from an enchanter's journal, scorched and near illegibility. The style is an old Ferelden dialect, circa mid to late Divine Age. Experiments and ambient lingerings. First staging. The question isn't, is it special? The question is, how special? We found relics, but there were always relics. Elves ranged far before their empire was crushed. But rarely did they return where they did not build. This place they visited again and again. I see it in the fragments, clays from different nations, not just craftsmen, styles from different centuries, not just clans, and yet no record of a ruin. The structures here are all Ferelden, with stone ferried up by a typical madman. Whatever was here, whatever natural spire, it was flattened for a floor. But I know the common shapes, and I will erect them as was custom, and we shall see what the elves wished to see. The note below is in a different, uneducated hand. I finished this for Master Gnaut. His workings brought lightning, much lightning. The rods are pools of metal now, and all his workings burned. Master was also struck. I write for him his last words, because his fingers are ash, and he did not live the night. The veil is old here. Skyhold has not just been claimed time and again, but sacked as well. We've managed to uncover some remnants, including a scratching under a pillar that mentions the name given by your witch. Old, but still long after the place had been built over. But the author knew something of its first purpose, or at least something of legend. Varlandivalis him sa Belaranis sa an Elgar. Melanada him Samiris Fentaldin, word missing. Narasalin Telrevas Nesuli Telsethenara Taraslinan telas venir. Abelathvir word missing. Even with assistance from your elf, we managed only a partial translation. Elven is often a game of intents, not direct mapping of phonetic meaning. That means it's a mess. Our belief transformed into everything. Assertion problem? Uncertain. All time is transformed into the final/first death. Uncertain. Inevitable threatened victory and horrible promised freedom in the untorn veils. Uncertain. Where the sky is held up, back where the people gain love. That is an apology promised from to missing subject. Uncertain. Mostly complete as fragments go. The rhythm is strange, not like others I've recorded. Perhaps less a poem than a statement. The elven language does tend to meander. Notes from the archivist. The Emerald Graves. Our people call this place the Emerald Graves. Long ago, before the fall of the Dales, a tree was planted for every warrior who pledged themselves to the guardianship of the Dales. Together these warriors were the Emerald Knights of Halam-Shiral, and the forest of their trees was named the Emerald March. When the humans began encroaching once again on our borders, the Emerald Knights banded together to protect us from the incursion. But the humans were many, and their chantry powerful, and they eventually conquered the Dales. The knights fought in defense of our land, and almost all perished. The trees that once represented a mighty army were now living symbols of sacrifice, the Emerald Graves. I hear that most humans in Orlais do not call this place by its true name. They find it an inauspicious one and refer to the forest only as the Great Wood. They refuse to see anything but wood and moss and leaves, and hope to remain ignorant of the blood that was spilled. But we of the people remember. We feel the weight of what was lost, and we see not trees, but lives given for freedom. As told by Keeper Gesherel of the Ralafiren clan. Resources found here: elfroot, spindleweed, blood lotus, royal elfroot, blood lotus, deep mushroom, rash vine, embryon, prophet's laurel, rash vine nettle, arbor blessing, iron, bloodstone, pyrophyte, obsidian, everite, stormheart, dawnstone. The Exalted Plains. It is appropriate that we pick the Exalted Plains as our field of battle. It was here centuries ago that the Dalish kingdom met its bitter end, the holdouts of the elven army making their last stand, refusing to surrender against the champions of Andraste, the Templar, the Sister, and the nobleman patron. The champions' cause was just, and their faith led them to victory. The plains were henceforth called Exalted. Someone once said that these fields are characterized by equal measures of beauty and strife. This description will hold true for the foreseeable future. The strife we bring to the Dales will be quickly forgotten, however, if we fight hard and fight well and earn a definitive victory. Let the knowledge that you strike in the name of the true Emperor encourage and guide you. Truth and righteousness prevailed in the plains long ago. Maker willing, it will again. A message from Marshal Bastien Prolux to his soldiers before the battle was joined. Resources found here: elfroot, spindleweed, blood lotus, royal elfroot, black lotus, deep mushroom, rash vine, embryon, rash vine nettle, iron, serpentstone, bloodstone, viridium, obsidian. Tales. Samson's Tale. Samson, Templar fame, raise your shield of shame. Samson's letter caught, left unfought, defamed. Armor laced with blood shall reclaim his name. Samson's broken heart shall revoke his claim. Samson, knight in red, he hath lost his way. Samson, martyr rage, soon the world will pay. As performed by the bard Meriden Halewell. A fine time to close a border. The news is dire. There are rumors that our warden brothers and sisters in Ferelden have all perished. Without the Grey Wardens, the blight will take Ferelden. Then it will undoubtedly spread. It will go north to Navarra and the Marches. It will come west to Orlais. At the head will be an archdemon, and in its wake will come thousands upon thousands of Darkspawn. We must be ready to stare squarely into the eyes of oblivion. Many of you have asked why we remain here when such threats are mounting in the east. The problem, you see, is not a new one for us. Politics. To say Ferelden and Orlais have been at odds is an understatement. These two are like dogs and cats. We wardens are Orlesian by address only, but that does not seem to matter to Ferelden's leaders. Word is that the king of Ferelden is dead, and his successor, Logain Mactyr, decrees that no warden set foot in the country. Mactyr, a national hero who helped expel invading Orlesian forces from Ferelden, seems to have it out for our order, too. Maybe he doubts our abilities. Maybe he is more foolish than the history books make him out to be. This is why we must wait, even as Ferelden willingly welcomes its fate. An address by Warden Constable Blackwall, of Valchavon, to his recruits, 930 Dragon. But Blackwall was in Ferelden. That's what he said. He was in Ferelden and quietly killed his fair share of Darkspawn. Hard in Hightown, Chapter 5. We're not finding these in order, I apologize. By Varric Tethras. Devlin was waiting outside the captain's office when Donan Brennikovic slunk out, defeated. We're not getting a warrant, are we? Devlin looked almost relieved. No. Donan met his partner's eyes. The kid was barely 20 and looked like he walked straight to the Kirkwall barracks from somebody's potato farm. Taller and broader than the other guards, Devlin slouched as if he didn't know how to fit into his own limbs, as if he thought he should be smaller. Hunched over in his brand-new too-large armor, he looked like a child playing at being a guard. He was too green for a murder investigation. Maybe it's for the best, Devlin said, almost speaking Donan's thoughts out loud. You're on your way out of the guard, and I'm... He trailed off, then sighed. Questioning nobles in the middle of the night wasn't covered in training. Donan glared at the kid. I'm a city guard, and so are you, recruit. Nobody gets away with murder while we're on duty. Devlin stood a little straighter. What do we do, then? The captain wants proof. Donan smiled. We bring her proof. I can't wait until we find all of the chapters of Hard in Hightown. I looked it up, and there's 18 of them. Take back the sky, a tavern cheer. Now gather ye drunkards, that's how these begin, the songs of our heroes, our wars, and our kin. Well, now the fight's ours, and none of us cowers. We'll drink to all hours, 'cause we know we can win. Oh, they cut into heaven and called it a door. The herald will lead us to even the score. We'll take back the sky and we'll give 'em the floor. We'll take back the sky and we'll give them the floor. The beast was upon us, our hopes all but drowned. At our necks a monster, at our heels a hound. But we found a fortress and it's friggin' gorgeous. So they join in the chorus and down a new round. Oh, he cut into heaven, we said it before. Andraste will guide us to even the score. We'll take back the sky and we'll give him the floor. Oh, it's very long. We'll take back the sky and we'll give him the floor. We'll take back the sky and we'll give him the floor. We look to our leader and heft up our chest to show this Corypheus we're not impressed. He thinks we've been mastered, we'll beat down the bastard, and then we'll get plastered, we're blessed by the best. Oh, he cut into heaven, now sing it once more. Inquisitor, lead us to even the score. We'll take back the sky and we'll give him the floor. We'll take back the sky and we'll feed him his lie, and black his foul eye, and let all arrows fly, and then we'll have pie. Die, 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 die. We'll take back the sky and we'll give him the floor. An exercise in rhyme by Meriden, a minstrel to our fine Inquisitor. My God. The Blades of Hessarian. The body may die, but the soul is everlasting. Andraste's human form was put to the sword and burned, but the fire only purified her and made her immortal. She was called to the Maker, but saw with clear eyes that her work was not yet done. She went to Mafrath's side, seeking an executor of her will, but saw the traitor for what he was. She went to Hessarian's side, but saw that Hessarian was not yet ready to give himself. And so she went to the lowly Alamari slave Trefir, who served the Archon, and gave unto him the great sword of mercy with which her mortal life was ended. To him she said, "Take this sword, and with it bring my judgment to the world." And Trefir took the sword, and became an instrument of Andraste's justice. A Blade of Hessarian, telling of the Order's founding. The Blades of Hessarian are an ancient secret society who believe they serve Andraste, and were chosen to bring her judgment upon the weak and the corrupt. The order was founded, according to their tales, by the Tevinter slave Trefir, who returned to the lands of the Alamari bearing the Sword of Mercy. Since then, the Blades followed the one who bore the sword with unquestioning loyalty, as he or she was considered to have been chosen by Andraste. Chantry scholars have determined that Trefir's account detailed above is pure fabrication. If Trefir even existed, it is likely he stole the Sword of Mercy from Hessarian, his master, before fleeing to what is now Ferelden. Less generous interpretations maintain that Trefir simply passed off his own sword as the Sword of Mercy to gain power and influence. The last recorded sighting of a Blade of Hessarian was in 812 Exalted. From Before Andrastianism, The Forgotten Faiths, by Sister Rondwyn of Tantervale. The Folly of General Not-Sheritan. Updated. 3. But during times of crisis there can emerge abilities we do not know we possess. The servant under the greatest duress... The servant, under the greatest duress, stood as Not-Sheritan. She stood and she spoke. She stood and she led. She stood and she attacked. And under banners they knew and a voice they did not, the forces of Orlais brought low their enemy. Now perhaps the servant was more lieutenant than page to her battle-hardened lord, and perhaps the strength of the foe is stressed too much in the retellings, and perhaps the allied were well practiced in their roles. But none question that Not-Sheritan was the least Not-Sheritan was at the least adequate and at the most inspirational. 4. And so it was that victory was absolute, and cheers were raised for General Not-Sheritan. And so, buoyed by respect and admiration, Not-Sheritan stood proud and removed the mask to state her true name. For had they not accepted her? Had they not thrived by her leadership? Had they not become comrades, despite station and masks and nonsense of protocol? And the answer was swift and bewildering, for they had not. And swiftly she was bundled away amid calls of impostor and spy, and other terms she could not know, for she still did not know Orlais. And that's it. Whew. Okay. Ay, 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 ay. Yeah. That's it. I hope to see you all next time when we continue whatever it is that we're going to continue. However, until then, take care of yourselves, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.